Hey y'all, welcome back. Now listen, I know there's a once-in-a-century pandemic going on outside that has taken the lives of over 500,000 US citizens so far. I know the Earth is hurtling towards an irreparable climate apocalypse. I know millions of people can't afford health insurance or struggle to feed their family or can't make ends meet if a surprise $400 payment comes up. But we're not here to talk about any of those frilly, sissy, unnecessary issues today. Today we're getting to the meat and potatoes of what really matters in America right now. We're here to talk about the unacceptable thought crime of turning what always was a very amorphous blob of a toy into an amorphous blob of a toy. It should be a war crime. Honestly, Hasbro should be put through a Nuremberg trial of sorts for this one. For real though, this is maybe the dumbest news cycle of all time. It supersedes some of the previous contenders from the last decades. I just really can't believe this was a story. So let's start with the article that really set this whole shitstorm off. Mr. Potato Head drops the Mr. Sort of. Now what's especially weird here, and we'll get into the reasons behind this later, the Associated Press tweet, which is what I initially saw this news story from and what was grabbing a lot of the initial headlines, here says, a Mr. No More, Mr. Potato Head goes gender neutral, which to be clear is much different than dropping the Mr. sort of. So it's a little suspicious right out of the gate here to have this weird discrepancy in headline, considering how unfortunately much people don't read the article itself, they just read the headline. That sets us up for a lot of confusion right off the bat. But in reality, when you go to the article that it links to, what's super interesting is you see immediately that the plan was always different than it was pitched. While it was announced today that the Potato Head brand name and logo are dropping the Mr., I am proud to confirm that Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head aren't going anywhere and will remain Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, that's a pretty big confusion there. How did they mix that up? And let's be sure to look at the dates here, because if you go over to YouTube and look at some of the headlines, you'll find some React Andes like Geeks and Gamers over here, or The Quartering with this just fucking tasteless thumbnail. They're saying things like, the move backfired. They immediately retract their statement. So let's be the adults in the room and review the timeline of events to see if this was a mistake or if this is how it was intended. The tweet, February 25th. The article, February 25th. These photos also dropped on February 25th. So there was no time, as these people might be suggesting, for this whole ad campaign, the logo design, to have been conjured up in a single moment. It was instead horrible reporting on the part of AP over here for making it sound like they were dropping the Mr. entirely. When you look at it, it's actually just Mr. Potato Head, or alternatively, Mrs. Potato Head at the bottom. The only difference is the name of the line is changing to generically Potato Head. Now, I had forgotten about this because it's been years since I've thought of this fucking toy. But yeah, they used to be the Mr. Potato Head brand, and then it was the Mrs. or whatever. So really, all they're doing is they got this new cute little kitty logo and they took the particle before it out of it. That's it. That's the whole tweet storm. That's the whole outrage that managed to get mentioned at fucking CPAC by leaders of our shithole country. Now here's a part I want to add to the conversation that I haven't really seen connected too much. There is, of course, speculation from these kind of right-wing reaction Andes about this being a mistake that they eventually retracted, but I think considering the timeline of events, it is more likely that this story can be viewed through the lens of woke brand marketing, which the lovely King H. Bomber Guy so aptly outlines in a video by the same name. To summarize his video a bit, the formula kind of works like this. You say a non-offensive kind of progressive thing like men should be less sexist, then you get the media tweet storm from people saying that it's virtue signaling and the death of the West and it's actually Marxism. And then through that, let's be clear here, free advertising, you dominate the news cycle for a few days and your product's name is all over Fox News, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus probably. And at its core, it has become a very corporatized marketing tactic, which is why I think in this case, it's safe to assume, though it could also be AP fucking up with the headline, I think it's really safe to assume that this was intentional. Again, they were dropped on the same day, they had the labels ready, so why come out in this confusing manner? Why, in your initial press release to the AP, make it say like he's going gender neutral, a Mr. No More? If not, to spark outrage. This is always how Hasbro wanted it to go down. They always wanted to kind of have the vague confusion so that it could trend and grab people's eyes a little bit more. And it's clear to me that they were counting on conservative outrage to spark free advertising. And to try to prove my point that this was always meant to be an outrage trend moment, let's just take a quick little peek at Google Trends over here. So here we have the word potato head. As we can see throughout the last 12 months, this is the most potato head has ever been searched. It's now, let's see what happens if we expand it out to 5 years. Oh, look at that. It is once again the most it's ever been searched. Oh, let's just do the longest timeline Google will allow. Let's see from when they started gathering data, how much it trends. Oh, would you look at that? The outrage over potato head literally has it at its most popular point since Bush's re-election. Think about that for a second. A little slip of a headline, and all of a sudden, a toy that no one's thought about since the Lord of the Rings trilogy was still in theaters is on everyone's homepage. Everyone is talking about it. Every conservative politician has a tweet to throw their way. Most notably, of course, this very reasonable response from Matt Gaetz, which says this is the sign that Republicans need to secede, which is a very reasonable thing to respond to Toy Potato Man no longer having Mr. in his name. And what I really want to take a moment to stress here, which is a similar conclusion to H. Bomber Guy's Woke Brands video, but I think is like on steroids in this case, when you, a conservative, which is pretty presumptuous to assume that any of them are in my audience, but when you see a news story like this, that the toy you had as a kid is changing its name a little bit, and your response is to say shit like, it's time for Republicans to concede. When you engage in hashtags and share the story and angry reactions all over the place, you are literally ensuring that this will happen again. You are ensuring that this brand change that you hate is going to sell more than it would have otherwise. Not only that, but the more you and your homies get outraged over little things like this, the more brands are going to be convinced to try this marketing tactic. Like all of a sudden, in a few months here, we might have Lincoln Logs rebranding as Lindsay Logs or something, not out of any genuine interest in spouting any sort of progressive value, just because they know that you'll hop onto fucking Twitter and say that Marxism has fully arrived and that they'll get a bunch of free advertising from it. And I understand this is like a threat to the West or whatever to have this label change, so you feel inclined to speak out and make a big deal about it. So if there's anyone who wants to make sure that this stuff stops ever happening again, you need to stop getting so mad about it. What I also think is really important to note about this is I've literally never seen a person ask for this, and I think that's really important to bring up when we're talking about cancel culture, is sometimes it's a hashtag that trends or whatever, but it's just a decision that a company made running the numbers and thinking, we think this will be pretty harmless. We think it'll be a nice new moment for this brand. And then they did it. This isn't like, this decree did not come down from the ivory towers of academia requesting that the potato lose the precipice or pretext or whatever that is. Mr. hereby decreed by George Soros. No, it's just they just made a decision, and look at that cute little logo. How can you disagree with that cute little logo? But anyways, yeah, in summary, you need only blame yourself. Maybe you wouldn't have this if you didn't make it so marketable to put this shit out there. Maybe it wouldn't happen. I don't know, just a thought. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Shout out to all my lovely potato-headed patrons, like those whose names are currently on screen. On top of generously supporting me, patrons get access to exclusive and early content, like rough edits of every single one of my videos and behind-the-scenes footage. So be sure to follow me on Patreon if you want access to all those goodies. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to toss me one of them likes and subscribe down below. Make sure to ring that little bell and set your notifications to all so you can know the exact nanosecond I release my next video. Thanks much, and I'll see you next time.